It started by us reading 2 different books through the summer, memorizing a couple chapters of the Bible, meeting every week with our prayer groups, and then having a lot of discussion and participating in these weekly like lectures and discussions as well. And so the first book that we read as a group was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by this guy, John Mark Comer. John Mark Comer, if you're familiar with the Bridgetown podcast, he is a pastor out of Portland, Oregon, and he's a really dynamic speaker. He's given some really, really cool lessons. If you are interested in the lesson tonight, you can probably check out his podcast. We're going off of this book, off of these convictions, and off of a lot of things that were really eye-opening to me. This lesson tonight is a preface to a lot of expounding principles. So from these roots we established tonight, we can really take it to a lot of ways, and that's how the book does. This whole lesson is really just part 1 of the book, and there are a lot of things that come from this. But the book is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which I don't like that title. I really don't like that title. I've told people about the book, and I say this title is not accurate to describe the book. And when I hear a book that's trying to get me to ruthlessly eliminate hurry, I automatically think it's bad because I don't want to be unproductive. I don't want to be lazy. I don't want to not get my schoolwork done. And for me, I really like to fit in a lot of stuff in my day. So I want to have a really good quiet time and make that as long as I can. I want to get all my schoolwork done and get ahead and make A's. And I want to get my workout in and train. And then I want to hang out with people. And then I want to eat and cook my own food so that it's cheaper because I don't go out. And then I think of 20 more things. I want to play guitar. I want to skateboard. I want to hang out with these friends from different places. And so once I do all that stuff, then I find 20 more things to do. So anyway, maybe some of you guys can relate. Here's some rhetorical questions. Maybe some of you guys have felt before. Who here has ever felt rushed for time in general? Or felt frustrated when others are late for a meeting? Or even, have you found yourself rushing down the road in your car, getting on people's bumpers and trying to go fast when you're not even late for anything? Or who's had a difficult time focusing your mind on God in your quiet time because you're distracted by all kinds of thoughts? Or felt like you couldn't live a second without your phone or the internet? Or, like me, and all these others as well, attempted to cut out as much sleep as possible while still not being a zombie so you can fit everything else in that you want to do. All right? This might be a lot of us. These practices kind of, underlie our society. I've seen YouTube videos about how to cut out your time and do different stuff with examples of other people called How Bad Do You Want It? All about success and getting ahead in life. And it's a desirable thing. I can feel guilty if I don't work really hard to get this stuff. So going along some of the things in this book, we're starting out with this concept of evil. We think about evil, we think about what? Murder, lying, all these obvious sins, right? It's obviously a sin to do something bad to someone else. One thing to notice with all these things I've just listed, in the modern world, you're probably more likely to see evil in the form of distractions and repeated subversive acts from God's intended lifestyle for us. So I said God's intended lifestyle for us. What am I talking about? Matthew 11, verse 28 says, and you all know this, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and you know what? I'm going to give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The easy yoke of Jesus. So what's the opposite of this easy yoke of Jesus? Why is this created? What does this even mean, this easy yoke? What is he talking about? When we talk about all the questions we've just looked at and we've analyzed ourselves and seen these problems, this concept comes in of evil. This evil can be manifested in sin, like murder and lying and hurting other people, but it can also be manifested in being really busy. Those two things really have the same effect on you. Think about it. When you're busy and not focusing on things that really matter, it's cutting off your connection to God, to other people, and really even to your own well-being. When I'm busy, I'm trying to fill my life with tasks that usually serve me, that move me towards my own desires. And usually I've been too busy to love other people or even to love God. So let's look at Jesus. When Jesus had people come up to him and they said, "Hey, I need healing. My friend, he can't walk. He has a problem with his hand. It's withered." Or the woman that she had a bleeding problem. Did Jesus say, "Oh, sorry, I've got to go speak at this conference in Bethsaida in the morning at 8 a.m. Peter, my best friend, will take care of that for you. Sorry about that. I can't handle talking just to you. I got 30,000 people that need me down the road." No. And why wasn't he doing that? Wouldn't it make a lot of sense for Jesus to try to do everything that he could in a small amount of time? Wouldn't that make a lot of sense? The easy yoke. There's another point that Comer makes. He even argues as far as the extent that hurry and love are incompatible. Can't you hurry to go love someone, though? But think about it. When I'm in a hurry, when my mind is distracted, what am I doing? This is where we talk about not only the hurry, like you're in a car rushing someone to move faster, but the whole culture of our world. We're not only talking about trying to move faster. This life is full of, in this sense, of these subversive acts. Three things. Three subversive acts that pull us away from God's intended purpose for our lives. The first is distraction. The third is addiction. The second is addiction. And the third is the pace of life. So by distraction, I'm talking about distraction of our thoughts. Like in that quiet time when you can't think about God because you're too busy thinking about everything else. You're thinking about, oh my goodness, I gotta get this listed, my car listed on Auto Trader because it's not going to be worth anything in the fall. It's worth more in the summer because it's a Jeep. Or I'm thinking about, oh, dang, I got this problem with 3 of my friends. I really need to fix this. Oh, dang, this girl I've been talking to is really cute. I wonder what she's doing today. This is really distracting when you're trying to talk to God. These distractive thoughts. What about addiction? In addiction, I'm talking about our phones, our computers, and the internet. I'm sure there are other addictions, but when we're talking about hurry, the distraction of our thoughts and the distraction of our entire beings, we get consumed into our phones, and that's having an effect on us. We'll mention later, we'll talk about screen time. It's an app on your phone. You can track how much time you spend on your iPhone. And this has an effect on us. And then also this pace that we get into with these activities that are either serving ourselves or serving the world. This is doing something to our heart. This is doing something to our relationship with God, relationship with each other as the church, and our view of ourselves that we're not realizing. We're not seeing is going on. We're just kind of ignoring it. All right? So I've got more notes, but I won't bother you guys with too many of those. we've got several scriptures that talk about all of these topics. And I'll kind of blast you through that because I think they're all important and scripture is more convicting than I am. But we've also got some symptoms that we can see if you have this, what John Mark Comer calls hurry sickness, symptoms in your life to see if you have this sickness. But these scriptures, we'll go through this real quick. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 3 through 6, it's summarized this commandment. What is it? The third commandment, the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall have no idols. Jonah chapter 2, verse 8 says, those who pay regard to vain idols forsake their hope for steadfast love. If I pay my regard to the vain idols that I'm seeking after, I'm always trying to get ahead, I'm in a hurry because I'm trying to get ahead in what I want, then I'm forsaking this steadfast love that waits for me. Psalm 16, verse 4, the sorrows who run after another god shall multiply. Their drink offerings of blood I'll not pour out, or take their names on my lips. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 14 says, so then, my dear friends, flee from idolatry. Matthew 10:28 summarized in, do not fear those who can kill the body, but not the soul. Psalm 145, verse 9 says, the Lord is good to everyone. His compassion rests on all he has made. In Mark 10:18, it says, why do you call me good? Jesus asked. No one is good except God alone. So why am I talking scriptures about idols? And why am I talking scriptures about how good God is? We get in a hurry, right? We get distracted. We're addicted to our phones. We get so focused on these things. We try to put aside the rest that we need because we want these things in our life. We want our life to have worth, to make us happy, to be satisfying, because we get distracted, because we have idols, and because we don't realize how good and captivating and worthy of delight that God is. So we don't fear God. Now, I'm really blowing through this. It's best to probably read this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, to really hash this out. For the internship that we're doing, of course, we all read the book. It wasn't just a lesson. Read the book. After every chapter, we had lessons to break down every part. And again, this is just the first part. So there's a lot of information here. It's kind of over summarized. So don't take all of this with just this one lesson. Dig a little deeper. But in talking about this hurry, I've got a little video for you guys to kind of dissect and slow down what we've been talking about. I'm not trying to rush through this too much. And I'm going to share this video. So we're talking about hurry, and hurry hasn't always been around. We're familiar with Jesus's easy yoke and what we're seeking after. And there was a time before there was so much hurry, before there was so much time. So let's look at this video. This is about the history of how timekeeping was created. This is really gone into detail in this book and the significance, the implications from timekeeping. And I'll let you guys digest some of what we talked about so far and take a look at your notes as we're watching this video. Also, let me know in the chat if you have any audio problems or anything else watching this.
A long time ago on a faraway island, the people kept time by sunrise, sunset, and the cannon. Every day at noon, on the hill above town, soldiers would fire the cannon and set lights base in the village below. One day, a boy wanted to know how the soldiers knew when to fire. The artilleryman told the boy he gets the order from the captain. When he asked the captain, he said he keeps his watch synchronized to the great clock in the village. Minutes, seconds, and you and I agreeing you're a half hour late for lunch, we made that up. The rhythms of time are built into our bodies, and most living things instinctively obey daily or yearly cycles by following the big, bright daytime sky thing. For most of human history, though, sunrise, sunset, and some seasons were all the timekeeping we needed, and maybe knowing halfway in between for lunch, and maybe the tides if you're the Saxons. The first calendars were made to please the gods, and cows and crops didn't need clocks. But with civilization came schedules. People had meetings to make and employees to manage. Egyptians made the first clocks using shadows and split the day in 12. But that doesn't work in the dark, so Egyptians marked nighttime hours by watching 12 of their favorite constellations rise. Why 12? Because why not? Egyptians preferred duodecimal numbers to match the lunar cycles in a year, or maybe the finger joints on each hand. But either way, that's how we got a 24-hour day. Or they might have stolen it from the Babylonians. Ancients eventually switched from watching stars to watching water drip, but hours weren't a fixed length until Greek astronomers decided to make it that way. Later, Greeks decided to divide up circles into a very random 360 degrees, and each degree into 60 smaller minutes, and each of those into 60 smaller seconds. Why? Greek astronomers borrowed a lot of their math from, guess who? The Babylonians, who used a base 60 number system that they borrowed from the Sumerians. In the end, hey, I guess clocks are circles, so why not use minutes and seconds for time too? What's clear is the 24-60-60 system doesn't make much sense. It's just how it happened. Water clocks spread all over the world and became pretty sophisticated, adding bobs and gears to show the water level and time on a face. The Europeans were the first to get rid of the water entirely and just use gears and gadgets, mostly because European astronomers needed extremely accurate time measurements to do experiments. Science molded clocks into intricate counting machines. Just figure out some regular wiggler like Galileo's pendulum or Christian Huygens' spring and count the wiggles. Congrats! You're a Time Lord, Harry. This new precision time created a new kind of human day. People knew when to go to work and when to meet. More and more people disconnected their day from nature and turned it over to machines, which sounds kind of familiar. By the Industrial Revolution, schedules could be regulated to the minute. Workers became slaves to the clock, and productivity was measured by what you made in how much time, because after all, time is money. This was a huge...
You guys hear that? Time is money. So, some deep implications there, right? I hope you guys like history as much as I do. I can enjoy it. I can watch that stuff all day. But we've got a few more things to go over to know when you have this hurry sickness. And maybe before we start, a good question to ask ourselves, I wonder if in heaven we'll have time. It sounds like, noticing that video, time has really helped industrialists be more productive and get more out of their slaves or slave laborers. It's a little food for thought. So we've got these 10 symptoms here to identify if we have this hurry sickness or not. So if you're taking notes, go ahead and write a few of these down if you can. But it may be a little fast, so I'll try to share these. I'll try to share these so you can see it. And I'm speaking while I'm creating these breakout rooms, which is what we're going to do next. Anyway, 10 symptoms. So symptom 1 is irritability. Let me see if I can share this actually. You can read along with me. I'll share these in the chat. So irritability, it's kind of like you get mad, frustrated, or just annoyed really easily. Like at that car when you're trying to rush through traffic. Number 2 is hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity. All it might take would be just a minor comment that someone makes against you to hurt your feelings, or some kind of grumpy email to set you off or ruin your day. Number 3, restlessness. You actually do try to slow down, which may not be very often at all, because you're trying to make your life work on 6.5 hours of sleep and 4 cups of coffee. You can't even relax. Number 4, workaholism, or just working nonstop, activity nonstop, maybe not even work. You just don't know when to stop. Maybe you can't even stop. There we go. Number 5, emotional numbness. You just don't have the capacity to feel any other's pain, no empathy for others, no sympathy either. Your priorities are out of order. I would call this idolatry. There are probably multiple words for it, but this is probably one of the most obvious and significant issues of hurry sickness. Your orders, your priorities are out of order with God, somewhere in the middle. And the other things that really matter, probably even below that, because you're too busy trying to fit in the things that you think are going to satisfy you or are really important. Maybe lack of care for your body, not necessarily forgetting to shower, but maybe you just don't have any time to, work out, go to the doctor, go to the dentist, the things that you probably do really need. Number 8, escapist behavior. This is really significant and really confusing. Think about all the time you like to spend watching TV at the end of the day, and John Mark describes it as watching these old movies that no one has ever heard of, that he's not even a movie fanatic. He's just watching these movies because he's just got to stare at the TV. He's got to be looking at something. He's got to wind down from his day and get his mind off of things. Maybe he's spending a lot more time doing that. It's like the meme I saw, I finished Netflix. And in this list, really can be anything that's your distraction of choice: overeating, over drinking, binge watching Netflix, browsing social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or Reddit, whatever, surfing the web, looking at porn, really anything that's your cultural narcotic. That's a really good description there. So those can be really toxic and slip in without us knowing. Number 9, your spiritual disciplines might slip. You may stop having your quiet time regularly, or you may forget how to have a quiet time. You may pray hardly ever, right? You may have had a lot of spiritual disciplines that you felt were really significant. You may have talked yourself into believing they were legalistic, and so allowed them to become a lower priority and then eventually slip away. And 10, isolation. You may feel disconnected from God, from other people, or perhaps your own soul, which may be a little more confusing. Especially disconnected from God and others can be very impactful. So these are the 10 symptoms of hurry sickness. And again, this is a lot of material. So I recommend reading the book. Maybe buy, I downloaded the audio book. I had a little free trial, so it was free. That would be my number 1 recommendation. But take a look at this stuff and reflect on this. You can maybe save the chat, look at these things. Again, this mention of out of order priorities is a symptom, but hurry sickness is a reflection of an idolatry. We idolize this world. The Bible says to think less of this world and to think more about the kingdom of heaven. Put your treasures not on earth, but in the kingdom of heaven.